The desert sun burned from above, not one but two of them. Hanging like twin fireballs in the sky, the air shimmered with heat, dust dancing in the wind. A crowd had gathered near the edge of the alien market, and Jace, a human trader, stood among them, confused. He came here to buy engine parts, not to witness a slave auction. Yet something pulled him toward the center of the noise. The shouting and the cages, one by one. Strange aliens were dragged out, some tall and proud, some broken and silent. The buyers shouted prices in a dozen different languages. Some laughed, some cursed, some only stared. Jace hated it. Slavery had been outlawed on Earth for centuries. But out here, on the edge of galactic trade routes, laws meant nothing. He was about to leave when a sharp voice yelled, "Final lot! Last one for the day!" The crowd grew quiet. Two guards dragged a figure out, thin, filthy, and crawling. She wasn't walking like the others. She had chains on her wrists, her ankles, and even her neck. The chain connected to a thick metal collar. She looked more like a wild animal than a person. She was young, maybe 20. Her skin was soft purple but bruised. Her silver white hair was messy and full of knots. She had scars on her back, old ones, deep ones. But it was her eyes that froze Jace in place. Big, glowing and full of something strange, fear, yes, but also hope. As the auctioneer shouted numbers, no one responded. She was too broken, too quiet. One buyer laughed. "What am I supposed to do with a half-dead pet?" Another said. "She probably can't even speak." Jace turned to leave. His heart felt heavy, but just as he stepped back, the girl's head snapped up. She looked straight at him. Her lips moved. "Please, buy me and make me your slave," she whispered. Her voice was soft, but Jace heard it clearly, as if the desert winds had carried it only to him. For a second, he thought he imagined it. But her eyes didn't blink, didn't look away. She meant it. He didn't know why. Maybe it was pity, maybe curiosity, maybe madness, but something inside him said, "Don't walk away," before he could think. His hand was in the air. "I'll take her," he said. Everyone turned to look at him. The auctioneer laughed. "You sure, human?" "This one's not returnable, I'm sure," Jace replied, trying to keep his voice firm. He paid the credits, signed the paper, and within minutes the girl was his. She didn't stand up. She crawled behind him like a shadow. Dragging her chains through the sand, he led her to his small transport ship. Parked outside the city, she didn't speak. Didn't ask questions when they got inside. He offered her food and water. She hesitated, then ate fast like someone who hadn't eaten in days or weeks. "You don't have to act like that," Jace said gently. "You can sit, rest, talk." But she only lowered her head and said, "I will obey." "What's your name?" he asked. "I am whatever Master wishes to call me," she replied without emotion. "No," he said. "You had a name before, something real." She looked up, her lips trembling. "Rhea," she whispered. "My name was Rhea." "Then I'll call you Rhea," Jace said with a soft smile. "And I'm not your master, just Jace?" She blinked, confused, like she didn't understand those words. That night, Jace gave her a clean blanket, a soft place to sleep. But she refused to lie on the bed. Instead, she curled up on the cold floor beside the door, chains still wrapped around her arms. Before he turned out the lights, he asked her one last thing. "Why did you want me to buy you?" Rhea didn't speak right away. Then in the dark, her voice came like a ghost. "Because you looked like someone who wouldn't hurt me." Jace couldn't sleep that night. He stared at the ceiling, wondering what kind of life could make someone say words like that. He didn't know her story, but he knew one thing. Whatever had happened to her wasn't just wrong. It was evil, and he had just stepped into something far bigger than he expected. Rhea woke before the first sun rose. She didn't move at first, just opened her eyes and stared at the floor of the ship. Her body was sore, but she was used to pain. What felt strange was the silence. No shouting, no beatings, no metal rod across her back. Only the soft hum of Jace's ship systems and the quiet breathing of a man who hadn't tried to touch her once. She sat up and folded her blanket neatly, then kneeled by the door, waiting. Her chains clinked softly when she moved, a sound that had followed her for years. Soon the ship door hissed open and Jace stepped in, holding 2 metal cups of steaming broth. "You should eat," he said, handing her one cup. She took it with both hands, keeping her eyes low. "Thank you." "Master, don't call me that," Jace said gently. "Just Jace." "But you own me," she said. "You paid for me." "I didn't buy you to own you," he replied. "I bought you to save you." Rhea didn't know how to answer that. She drank her broth quickly and set the cup down without spilling a drop. She sat straight, hands on her knees, shoulders still. eyes focused on the floor. It was the way she had been taught. Jace crouched in front of her. You don't have to kneel. You're not in chains anymore. She glanced at her wrists, at the cuffs and links still wrapped around her. I am, she said softly. You just can't see all of them. Jace didn't know what to say. He wanted to help her, to make her see she was free. But how do you explain freedom to someone who's never tasted it? That day he tried to show her kindness in small ways. He asked her to sit at the table, but she sat on the floor beside it. He asked if she wanted to change into clean clothes. She refused unless he gave her permission. He told her she could speak freely, but every word she said still sounded like she was waiting to be punished. At one point, he caught her scrubbing the floor of his ship. Her hands were red, raw, and she was crying silently. You don't need to do that, he told her. But it's dirty, she said, and I belong to you. It's my duty to clean for my owner. You're not a servant. You're not a slave, Jay said firmly. I just want you to be safe. She froze. Her hand shook and she whispered, Safe is not real. That night, while Jace was fixing a sensor panel, Raya approached him slowly. She stood still for a long time before speaking. May I ask you something? She said. Of course, Jace replied, setting his tools down. Why? Did you buy me? She asked. No one else wanted me. I am broken. I was trained only to obey, not to think. Jace looked at her and replied, Because you looked like someone who didn't deserve to be treated like that, and maybe I was the only one who saw it. She stared at him, like she was trying to understand a language she never learned. Finally, she nodded, then said something he didn't expect. If you ever want to sell me, please don't sell me back to them. Kill me instead. His jaw clenched. I would never sell you, he said. She bowed her head. Then I will serve you better. No, he replied. You'll heal and you'll live your own life. The next morning, he tried something different. He showed her how to fly the ship, just the basics. She was afraid to touch the controls at first, but when he smiled and said, Try it, she reached out slowly. Her fingers were shaky, but her hands remembered things her mind had forgotten. She moved the ship slightly, her eyes wide. She didn't smile, but Jace saw something in her eyes, a spark that night. She slept closer to the bed, not on it, but near. As if her mind was taking small steps even her body didn't understand yet. And just before sleep took her, she whispered one sentence to herself, almost too quiet for Jace to hear. Maybe I can be more than property. He didn't say anything, but in the darkness he smiled, because that was the first time she didn't call herself a slave. Rhea had not spoken much since her first flight lesson, but Jace noticed the change. She moved with a little more confidence, a little less fear, still quiet, still careful, but something inside her was waking up, even if she didn't know it yet. But the chains on her wrists remained, not because he wanted them there, but because she refused to take them off. Jace had offered tools, even begged her once, but she shook her head and said, If you break them, I might break too. He didn't understand it. Not fully, but he respected it for now. On the third day aboard the ship, Jace found her staring at her reflection in the small metal mirror above the sink. She didn't blink, didn't move. He watched from the doorway without speaking. After a long time, she asked, Do I still look like a slave? Jace walked in slowly. No, you look like someone trying to find herself. She turned to him, her silver eyes sharp. What if I don't want to find her? What if she was weak, that girl couldn't protect anyone? That girl begged and crawled and screamed and no one came. He didn't reply right away. Instead, he sat on the floor beside her. Then maybe that girl was stronger than anyone else. She survived, didn't she? Rhea sat down too, folding her legs like a soldier. I was trained to forget, to obey, to kneel. They called it reconditioning. They erased my name, my thoughts, even my memories. Who did? Jace asked softly. My own blood, she said, her voice cracking. My family betrayed me. They sold me to the nobles, powerful alien houses that buy and break people like me. I was meant to be a symbol, a lesson for others who disobeyed. Jace clenched his fists. That's not a family, that's a prison, she nodded slowly. And I was the prisoner. Later that day, something strange happened. Rhea was cleaning the cargo bay when she suddenly dropped to her knees. Clutching her head, her body shook. Her breath came in gasps. Jace ran to her, afraid she was having a seizure. Rhea, what's happening? He shouted. She didn't answer, just screamed, a raw sound full of pain and memory. Then, just as fast, she went silent, Her hands slid from her head and she whispered, "I remember something. A door. A room filled with white light. And screams. Mine." Jace helped her to the bed and gave her water. "Don't push yourself. You don't have to remember everything at once." "I don't want to remember," she said through gritted teeth. "But my body does, my scars do." Jace sat beside her. "Then maybe we'll remember together, one piece at a time." That night, while Jace was asleep in the pilot chair, Rhea stood alone in the small bathroom. She stared at her collar in the mirror, hands trembling. Her fingers moved toward the latch, then pulled back. Again, she tried, then froze. Her breathing got heavier, her vision blurred, but this time, she pushed through the fear. Click, the collar unlocked. It fell into the sink with a heavy sound, and she collapsed to her knees, crying without sound. Her hands touched her bare neck like it didn't belong to her. Jace found her there, curled up, shaking. He didn't say anything, just sat beside her. After a long while, she whispered, "I thought taking it off would kill me." "But it didn't," Jace said. "You did it, Rhea, not me." She looked at him, her eyes full of shock and pride and fear all at once. "Why are you still here?" she asked. "Most people would have walked away by now." He smiled. "I don't walk away from people who need someone to stay." The next day, Rhea walked onto the bridge without her collar for the first time. She still wore the wrist chains, but her back was straight. Her eyes calm, Jace pretended not to notice. Giving her the control panel again, she flew the ship through a quiet asteroid field. Eyes focused, fingers steady. When they reached the far edge, she turned and asked, "Where are we going?" "Where do you want to go?" he asked back. She paused, then said one word, "Home." "Do you mean the place you were taken from?" Jace asked. "No," she replied. "I mean the place I was meant to be." Jace nodded. "Then let's find it together." Rhea nodded too. Her chain still there, but her heart lighter. The real shackles weren't just metal. They were fear, silence, and pain, and for the first time, they were beginning to break. Jace landed the ship outside the city border, beyond the noise and chaos of the alien market. The place was open, quiet, with wide fields and strange blue trees swaying in the wind. Above, both suns hovered like golden watchmen, casting soft light across the rocky plains. He opened the door and looked back. "Come on, Rhea. You've been locked up long enough." She stepped outside slowly, her bare feet touching the warm ground. She blinked against the sunlight and looked around as if she had entered a dream. For a moment she didn't move. Her hands clutched the ends of her sleeves, like she wasn't sure this was allowed. Jace waited patiently. "There's no fence, no guards. Just you and the world." She took a step, then another. Her feet felt soft earth. Not cold metal floors, she breathed in the wind. Not the recycled air of ships or slave cages. Her fingers brushed tall grass and she gasped. "It's soft," he smiled. "Yeah, that's nature." She turned to him slowly. "They told me I'd never see the sky again, that I wasn't worthy." "You are," Jace said. "More than they ever were." She didn't reply, just looked up, watching birds with glowing wings fly overhead. For a long time she stood there in silence, letting the wind touch her face. Her chain still rattled with each step, but her eyes were clearer now. They walked for an hour through the plains. Jace picked strange flowers and handed her a few. "Smell them," he said. She did and sneezed, then laughed. It was quiet and unsure. Like a bird testing its wings, Jace grinned. "That's the first time I heard you laugh. I forgot how it felt," she whispered, holding the flowers like treasure. As they rested near a tree, Jace unpacked some food. "We'll eat, then head back. I just wanted you to know what freedom looks like." Rhea stared at the horizon, then said, "It's beautiful, but also scary out here."
"No one is in control. There are no orders, no punishments." "You don't need orders," he said.
"You can choose for yourself now." She turned to him. "I don't even know what I like. I don't know who I am without a master." "Then let's find out," Jace replied, "one step at a time." But someone else had already found them first. Later that night, back on the ship, Jace went to check a sensor alert. One of the outer cameras had picked up movement. Someone had been watching from a hilltop while they walked. A cloaked figure, tall and silent, had stood there for nearly 20 minutes. Then disappeared. Jace's face grew serious. "Someone followed us," he told Rhea. Her eyes widened, panic rising. "Did they wear crimson?" she asked, with gold eyes on their armor. Jace nodded slowly. "You know them?" She nodded once, her voice shaky. "The House of Norin, One of the noble families. They owned me the longest. If they saw me, they'll come. Then we'll leave, Jay said firmly. Right now. But before they could power up the ship, they found a message carved into the hull. A warning written in alien blood. She is marked. She is ours. Rhea stared at it, trembling. We have to go. They'll kill you if they find you with me. Jay stared at the message, then wiped it away with a cloth. Let them try. She grabbed his arm. Tears in her voice. You don't understand. They don't just punish you. They erase you, burn your name from records, turn your friends against you. They are above the law. And I'm human, Jay said with a shrug. I don't follow their laws anyway. She looked at him with fear. But also something else, trust. Why? She asked, why are you doing this for me? Because the moment you whispered those words, please buy me. I knew you were trying to survive, he replied. And no one should be punished for surviving. That night, Rhea didn't sleep by the door. She sat beside Jace, quiet, her fingers brushing the edge of her blanket. After a long silence, she whispered, when I was a child, I used to dream about running away into the stars. I'd wake up crying because I knew I never would. Jace looked at her. Well, you're in the stars now. She smiled again, this time a little stronger, a little brighter. The wind of freedom had touched her, and for the first time she didn't flinch when it blew. But out in the darkness, a red ship moved through the stars, heading their way, and the chains she had broken would soon be tested again. The ship came silently, hidden behind the moon's shadow. No warning, no signal, just a red shape cutting through space like a blade. It had no name, only a symbol. 3 golden eyes on a black banner. Rhea saw it on the radar and froze. They found me, she whispered, her voice thin with fear. Jace looked at her. The House of Noran? She nodded slowly. They don't talk, they don't negotiate. They take. He turned to the control panel, activating defense shields. Not this time. Rhea gripped the edge of the seat, her hands trembling. She had never escaped them. Only been passed from one cruel hand to another, and now they were here, not for payment. Not for trade, but to punish. To reclaim what they believed was theirs. Jace handed her a small blaster. Can you fight? She hesitated, then took it with both hands. I was trained to kill before they broke me. Then let's remind them, Jace said. His eyes cold, they landed before the attackers could fire. Jace didn't want a ship-to-ship battle, not with Rhea aboard. He planned to fight on the ground where he could use traps. Terrain in his mind, it didn't take long. 4 red-cloaked figures stepped out of the enemy ship. Their armor gleamed with gold, their helmets shaped like skulls. One of them, taller than the others, removed his mask. He had blue skin and black eyes that never blinked. His face was covered in tattoos, cruel and sharp like thorns. Return the slave, human, and we will let you live, he said calmly. She's not your slave, Jace replied. She's free. The alien's smile didn't reach his eyes. Nothing taken from Noran is ever free, she was marked. She belongs to us. Rhea stepped forward before Jace could speak. I belonged to no one the moment I broke my collar. The alien looked at her, tilting his head. You broke the training, impressive. But you forget your place, your blood is still ours. I remember everything now, she said, her voice rising. The room of white light, the pain, the screams, and the brand you burned into my back, you called it loyalty. But it was slavery. You were a failed daughter of a dead house, he said coldly. We gave you purpose. You gave me chains, she snapped, raising the blaster. Now I give you a choice. Leave or die, the alien laughed, a low, cruel sound. You won't shoot. You were trained not to kill your betters. He took 1 step forward. She fired. The shot hit his shoulder, knocking him backward. The others reached for their weapons, but Jace was faster. He activated a trap he had set earlier, a hidden mine that exploded beneath their feet, throwing 2 of them to the ground. The battle was quick but fierce. Jace fought with skill, using tools, wires, and makeshift weapons. Rhea fought like a storm, her eyes glowing, her movements sharp and precise. She moved like someone who had trained her whole life but had forgotten until now. She didn't shoot to kill but to disable, to humiliate, to prove a point. In the end, the 4 attackers lay broken on the ground. Their leader crawled, holding his burnt arm. They'll send more, he hissed. You've only delayed your end. Rhea walked up to him and crouched. Then send this message back, she said. Tell your house the girl they broke is dead, and the woman who replaced her is not afraid. She stood and turned away. Jace destroyed their weapons and let the red ship fly off. smoking and limping through the stars. That night Rhea didn't cry, didn't tremble. She stood under the twin moons, her chains lying beside her on the ground. She had taken them off herself, every single one, and placed them in a neat pile like old skin. Jace came beside her, silent. He didn't speak, he didn't need to. After a long time, she whispered, "I didn't think I could ever fight again." "You didn't fight alone," Jace said. "But you led." She looked up at the stars. "They'll come again. Stronger. Then we get stronger too," he said. She nodded, her voice steady. "I'm not running anymore if they want war. They'll get one." And in that moment, Rhea wasn't a broken slave or a lost noble daughter. She was something new, something dangerous, something free. The ship glided through dark space, stars stretching like silver rivers across the windows. Rhea stood at the control panel, no longer afraid to touch it. Her hands were steady now, her breath calm. She no longer flinched when the engines roared or the lights flickered. Jace watched her from behind. "You're getting good at this," he said with a smile. She didn't turn, but he saw her shoulders relax. "Flying is easy," she said. "It's trusting myself that's hard." He walked up beside her. "You don't have to do that alone anymore." Rhea looked at him. "Then help me do one more thing." "Name it," he said. "I want to go back to the palace," she whispered. "The place where it all started, I want to see it with my own eyes. I want to burn it if I must." Jace nodded slowly. "Then we go together." They flew toward the inner belt, where noble houses lived in floating palaces of metal and light. These weren't cities, they were fortresses, protected by layers of defense, but Rhea knew the weak points. She had once walked those halls as a daughter of House Salir, a minor bloodline swallowed by the House of Norrin. As they approached, Rhea opened a secret panel in the ship. She had hidden it until now. Inside was a small box, smooth and locked with a genetic seal. She placed her finger on it, and with a soft hiss it opened. Inside were symbols etched in glowing crystal, weapons of her ancestors, and a ring marked with the sigil of House Salir, a phoenix wrapped in chains. Jace raised an eyebrow. "You had all this?" "They couldn't erase everything," she said, her voice hard. "My mother hid this in my escape pod before they took her. It's all that's left of my house, my blood. My name." She slipped the ring on her finger, and something changed in her face. She no longer looked like a survivor. She looked like a ruler reclaiming her throne. They docked near the underbelly of the palace station, where waste tunnels and old transport routes were abandoned. It was a quiet way in, unseen and unexpected, as they moved through the shadows. Rhea whispered, "I used to play here as a child." Before it became a prison, Jace stayed close, watching every corner. "What if there are guards?" "There will be," she said, "but I know their paths. They never expect one of their own to return through the dark." They reached the inner chambers where the Council of Nobles once met. Rhea stood in the doorway, her eyes scanning the tall windows and golden floor. "This is where my family begged for mercy and the House of Norrin offered slavery instead." Jace looked around. "It's empty. They hide now, they know I survived." "They think shadows will protect them," she said. Then a voice echoed from the hall, cold and sharp. "You should have stayed dead." A tall figure stepped forward, Lord Vec, the same noble who had branded her back. He wore armor covered in gold and symbols of conquest, but there was fear in his eyes. Rhea stepped forward, her voice clear. "I came to end what you started." "You were a broken thing," he sneered. "A dog we threw scraps to." "No," she said. "I was a phoenix buried under ash." He reached for his weapon, but Rhea raised her hand first. A surge of energy burst from her fingers, knocking him to the floor. Her DNA had been locked by trauma, but now it awakened. House Salir was known for its fire blood, energy that could burn or heal. Jace stared in shock. "You never told me you had powers. I didn't remember," she said, her hand still glowing. "Until now." Guards came running, but she didn't run. She stood tall, her symbol shining on her hand. "I am Rhea Salir, blood of flame, daughter of a house you tried to erase. I claim my right by power and survival." The guards hesitated, one of them knelt, then another. The room filled with silence as one by one they lowered their heads. Rhea turned to Jace, her voice softer now. "You asked me once why I whispered those words at the auction." "Why I begged you to buy me," he nodded. "Yeah." "I never forgot." She looked into his eyes. "Because I saw a man who didn't look at me like I was broken. I didn't know what hope was, but I saw it in you." Jace smiled. You were never a slave, Rhea. You were just waiting to be reborn. And as the palace lights dimmed behind them, and fire lit the sky outside, Rhea walked forward. Not as property, not as prey, but as a woman reborn in flame. The Golden Hall was quiet now. The air still carried the scent of heat and smoke from Rhea's awakening. The nobles who once ruled with cruelty had fled or bowed. Their power had shattered the moment she spoke her name aloud. Rhea Sahlir, daughter of flame, heir of ashes. She stood in the center of the palace, wearing no crown, holding no weapon, and yet no one dared to speak over her breath. Her body carried the scars of years in chains, but her eyes burned like two stars reborn. Jay stood beside her, watching it all with quiet awe. "You're not the girl I found in chains anymore," he said. She looked at him with a small smile. "No, but I carry her inside me. I'll never forget her." The ring on her finger pulsed with warmth. It was more than a symbol now. It was a reminder. She had once been sold, branded, and silenced. But now she spoke, and the world listened. The elders of House Norin tried to speak with her in private, offering apologies, pretending to make peace. But Rhea did not forget the cell where she had screamed, nor the night her blood was auctioned. "I don't want your words," she told them. "I want your chains broken, not just for me, but for every voice you silenced." And so she did the unthinkable. She opened the slave dungeons beneath the palace, doors that had been sealed for decades. Inside were dozens, aliens, hybrids, even children, shackled, nameless, hopeless when they saw her. They didn't believe at first. One child hid behind a metal crate. Trembling, Rhea knelt down, held out her hand. "It's over," she whispered. "No one owns you anymore." One by one, they stepped into the light. Jace helped free them, using tools and codes. The work took hours, but no one stopped, not even for rest. Freedom was worth more than sleep. When the last cuff dropped, Rhea stood among them and said, "This place once broke me, but now it belongs to the broken." She gave the palace to the survivors, not as a prize, but as a home. She didn't want power. She wanted healing, and for the first time in her life, she felt the chains inside her begin to fade. Later, as stars filled the sky above the palace towers, Jace and Rhea stood on the balcony, looking out over the city. Lights glowed like fireflies in every direction. A new era had begun. He handed her a datapad. "These are all the names of the buyers who ever bid on you," he said. "I found them in the market's hidden records." She held the pad without reading it. "Once I would have hunted them," she whispered. "Now I pity them. They lived in a world where owning a soul was normal. I don't want to destroy them. I want to change the world they live in." Jace nodded. "That's what makes you different. That's what makes you free." They didn't speak for a while. The stars were enough. Then Rhea broke the silence. "You know, the first time I saw you, I thought you were weak." Jace laughed. "Thanks, I was wrong," she said with a smile. "You were the first person strong enough to be kind. You saw me when I couldn't see myself." He looked at her. "So what now?" She stepped closer, eyes gentle. "Now I live, I laugh, I build, I teach others what I learned in the dark." "And me?" he asked. She took his hand. "You stay if you want, not because you saved me, but because you walked beside me every step." He squeezed her hand. "I never bought a slave, Rhea. I found a partner." She smiled. Not like the frightened girl in chains. Not like the weapon they tried to turn her into, but like a woman who had walked through fire and chosen to live below. The people of the city lit lanterns, tiny flames sent into the air, one for every freed soul, one for every lost name. Rhea looked up, eyes shining. "Once I whispered, 'Please buy me,' because I thought that was the only way out. And now?" Jace asked. "Now, I whisper thank you. To the stars, for giving me back my voice," she said. And as the lanterns rose into the sky, so did the final chain inside her heart. She was no longer the girl who was chained like a dog. She was Rhea, the one who broke every chain and lit a fire across the stars that would never fade.